Well, we'll say a very good morning to the former Defence Secretary, Grant Shapps. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
Morning, yeah, not bad, thanks.
You look how I feel, my friend, but thank you and welcome to the show. I'd love your take on all of this, Grant. All of this. We started reporting, obviously, early on about a military base, British one, in RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. As a former defence, actually, let me put this to you, and before we talk about this pathetic government, does not a strike on a British military base mean that Article 5 of NATO should be implemented? An attack on one is an attack on all, my friend?
I do think that all of NATO should be engaged in this conflict, and more than anything, I think our own government has been incredibly naive, thinking, as it seemed to when this got going, that somehow we could be avoid it, that we could somehow be absent from the biggest story in the world right now, when we have British bases. There are two on Cyprus. We have shipping in the Red Sea constantly under attack for years now by the Houthis, sponsored by the Iranians. We have our bases in Syria and Iraq, where the Iranian militia, sponsored militias, are attacking our people, and yet somehow, this Prime Minister and this government decide that this is nothing to do with us. And of course, no surprise, they've had to U-turn.
International law ties him in knots. He can't make a decision. Did you see Healy yesterday on the BBC?
I mean, it was painful. I think Johnny is a good man, trapped in the body of a government that, really must be beyond despair internally for him. I mean, talk about being twisted in knots. Obviously, our British interests lay at the heart of this and should be protected. Obviously, the right of self-defense means that we had every right to be engaged in this from the outset, and not some sort of impotent bystanders just standing on the edge of this and showing ourselves to be powerless by failing to use the capacity and the ability that we have. I mean, I just, for a British Defence Secretary to be put in that position and put on the Sunday morning shows, to sit there and say nothing because the human rights lawyer of a Prime Minister cannot make a decision until basically it's too late.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I thought, really, and you've served in government, I thought the primary and first role of a government is sort of dual, which is to protect the country and protect its people. And it is beyond me. And listen, I've been laying into this bloke for 18 months. It's astonishing to me when your Defence Secretary goes on telly and says 20 terror attacks, and yet you won't stand shoulder to shoulder. But let's have it. We're in a position, Grant, of the Greens. They won a by-election the other week with a Zach Polanski, who, you'll forgive me for calling hypno-tits, but I'm not apologising to anybody for that name, because it sums him up. This man goes on the BBC and says we should leave NATO, we should give up our nuclear weapons, we should cut all ties with America. And as if that isn't bad enough, his deputy leader, Mothin Ali, joins a rally in central London supporting the regime. And this is a populist party that is on the march in the United Kingdom. What does that tell you?
Yeah, it's just extraordinary. And since when did, well, for a long time, I guess, is the answer. But, it's one thing being, an environmentalist, right? But I don't see why that means that you also simultaneously have to hate our way of life, hate the West, believe that a regime like Iran, who persecute women, who have religious police tell you how long your beard should be, and who have murdered tens of thousands of their own citizens on their streets in just the last few weeks alone, that being a Green means you should then go out and support that.
I would only pick you up on one thing there. I haven't heard throughout Gorton and Denton or anything, I haven't heard one mention about hugging a tree. That's the irony of the dreadful Greens. They're actually a sort of communist version of the Labour Party dressed up as Greens. They don't mention rivers or trees anymore. It's all about everything else. I have to ask you this, and you're experienced enough to know why, and you'll answer the question. Do you not think that do you think the Supreme Leader should have been taken out years ago? And if so, as the Defence Secretary in a Conservative government of 14 years, why didn't that happen?
I absolutely do. And I'll tell you this, I could not understand why our policy towards Iran was so accommodating, and so, I mean, always trying to seek some sort of negotiated settlement when you can't negotiate with these people. Unfortunately, they're death to America, death to Israel, death to the West. They have no interests that we share with them. And so, for your information, whilst I was Defence Secretary, it was only for a year, I was working to move our policy. And when Iran attacked Israel April 2024, I was Defence Secretary, and I ordered the RAF up in the skies over Syria, over Iraq, to take down those incoming east to west projectiles, the missiles and the drones, and they did it. This government wouldn't even put our jets in the air to help defend when Israel was attacked again by Iran.
I want to bring up something. Sorry, go on. Yeah. Sorry, you go.
Go ahead. I
was going to bring up something about...
that was it.
So, yeah, I was just going to bring something about Israel, forgive me, but it really interests me, and I want you, you're a politician with huge experience, right? Do you not think it's slightly ironic? We were playing a clip earlier, we sent our reporter down, and there were Iranians on the streets of London over the weekend celebrating. There was a small minority waving the flags like Corbyn, going, let's support a killer. But a lot of people were out there celebrating the death of the evil dictator. And I wanted your opinion on this, actually. Do you think that any on the left, Grant Shapps, will be able to recognise and celebrate the fact, ironically, that it was Israel who played a major part in freeing oppressed Muslims in Iran, for God's sake?
Yeah. I mean, it is extraordinary. You see Corbyn. I mean, it's also predictable, I know. And others sort of say, leave the poor Iranians alone and we support them. I mean, just point. The people of the West who enjoy all the freedoms of literally being able to come on a show like yours and say what the hell we like, which are democratic freedoms that we should all cherish, think that regimes that persecute their populations and try to murder people who disagree with them, well, not try, do murder people who disagree with them, are the goodies. I mean, it is just absolutely gobsmacking. And just the lack of moral clarity. As you say, Iran absolutely should have been dealt with years ago. Look, I'm the first to criticize Trump. I don't like lots of what he does, including the fact he's unable to distinguish between a dictator in Moscow and a democratically elected, European country with a president who's democratically elected in Ukraine. So I'm the first to criticize Trump. But on this, he is absolutely right. The world has had enough of Iran, and the idea that you can negotiate with them, come some sort of settled agreement. The sort of thing this government's calling for now, which is just extraordinary given what's happened, is a complete myth. And it's right to take action sometimes. Sometimes you have to use raw power. I'm very saddened to see the UK left looking impotent whilst the world is changing around us.
You said that you believe that the Tory government got it wrong. How is it? I'm just being honest. Tell me to get lost. How is it out of it? Do you miss it? Or are you glad you're out of the madness that is being a politician?
It's a lot more freedom and, not quite the constant pressure as well. So, no, I'm having a lovely time and just sort of decompressing after all those years, and I think more cabinet roles than anyone else alive. So, I was right in the thick of it. Do I miss it? Yeah, of course you do. I mean, actually, particularly when you see a government, making so many obvious mistakes, including in the last couple of days where headed off in the wrong direction. We're not going to be involved. Last night, have to turn. You do just look at it all and go, oh, you just can't believe the mess that they're making of it. And of course, that does make you have that sort of that tinge of missing it.
Are you coming back?
Time will tell. I don't know. As I say, I'm having a lot of fun doing some great things outside of politics, and seeing my family and things that I haven't been able to do for a lot of years. But you never know. As I say, I do just certainly miss it.
Now, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, because it's not meant that way. A couple of your colleagues, well, several of them, have defected to Reform. You can tell me your views on that, but I want to play you a video that Robert Jenrick dropped at 8:30 this morning. Nobody has seen this, except if you follow him online. This is extraordinary, and I think sums this government. This is all about Rachel Reeves. Please enjoy, Grant, and everybody else. Here we go.
In Leeds, where Rachel Reeves is the MP, 1 in 4 aren't working. Now, you'd think the person in charge of the economy would be focused on fixing that. Instead, she's been hanging out with the man she describes as her friend, Arshad Katana.
Pleasure to be here with you this evening.
A man who shared a military video, which also glorified terrorists from two terror groups, who said that those who speak against Islam are an evil gang who he will help to destroy, who's hosted preachers at his Leeds mosque with vile views. One said we shouldn't use Google because it's run by the Jews. Another is infamous for supporting a despicable Islamist murderer. Arshad has shared conspiracy theories about 9/11 and an international lending mafia backed by Zionist Rothschild criminals. He's called for revenge against India and for everyone to get together and finish these evils on earth. And he said he would only support Reeves and Labour if they do what I demand. Why is Reeves friends with this man? Why is she hanging out with him time and again since 2010? Why is she asking his views on foreign policy? And why is she going around to Ashad's house as Chancellor for lunch? Shouldn't she be focused on getting your bills down and bringing back good jobs?
Grant Shapps, what do you make of that?
Well, so Robert's always very good with the old social media videos, and he's also right about the point, which is, this government's priorities are all in the wrong place. Every Labour, I mean, the point he starts off on, but doesn't much come back to there, is that every single Labour government in history has left this country with more people on the dole than when they came to power. And this one is doing exactly this. It's a repeat of history. They're doing the same thing again. So he's absolutely right about the economic stuff. Also, I've no doubt at all, Rachel Reeves and the whole of this Labour party's heart is in the wrong place when it comes to, whose side are they on. Where I disagree with Jenrick, and I find it quite hard to sort of take him seriously when I see these things, is a year ago he's telling us just over a year ago, he wanted to be Tory leader. He obviously didn't want it that much, because when he didn't get it, he got up and left the party. I'm afraid my view is somewhat tinged by that. I get the subject matter. Yep.
I get that view, but just one final question, and not on any side about this. I'm going to play, just tell you my personal side. During the last election, we have to think all purdah, so we have to be very balanced. I was interviewing a Tory MP and a would-be Reform candidate, and Reform candidate started to speak and was talking about, secure borders, more military spending, more police on the streets, less ideology in schools, reading, writing and arithmetic, not a girl can have a penis and all that rubbish, and was talking about things that I had always backed, fiscal responsibility as a Tory voter for 58 years. And the Tory MP jumped in, Grant, and said, well, that's far-right politics. I think the reason that Reform has, I mean, I'd love your opinion, I think the reason Reform has grown as it has, and maybe Jenrick, take him out of this for a minute, is that many disaffected Tories feel, and you touched upon it at the beginning with perhaps the Supreme Leader and defence spending, moved away from doing what traditional Tories expected their government and party to do. That is, I think, the problem the Tory party has. Would you agree with that?
I think that's exactly it. I mean, it's not the only problem, right? Because we actually also govern through incredibly difficult times, a war in Europe pushing up the energy prices, COVID, something like no government had seen for over 100 years. So there were other factors, and it's always very easy when you're not in power to go, oh, you should just do this, it'll all be fine, just go and do this, but you don't really understand the many shades of difficulty and what else would be the unexpected consequence of doing it. So you can make things sound very easy when you're in opposition, but to your fundamental point, you are right. We stopped doing the things that you expect a Conservative government to do. Smaller government, less interference in your lives, cutting taxes to unleash the entrepreneurship that this country undoubtedly has, but yet somehow we add up to less than the sum of our parts in the country and in the world. But where I disagree with the Reform line, and I'll just put this on record, is they have a very miserable view of the future. And I feel slightly depressed whenever they come on and tell us how, we're going, down the, to hell in a handcart. And I think there is definitely space for a much more optimistic Conservative party that is the party of the economy and I do notice that actually Conservatives have the lead on the economy, of sound economics, but actually also of a positive, future for this country, where we do add up to more than the sum of our parts and get out there in the world and really show the world what we're made of, which is, an incredible island that, let's face it, in the past has actually pretty much run the world. Well, that is because we've got great enterprise and swashbuckling attitude towards the world. And we should get out there and economically at least, run the world.
Two final questions, very quick. You had so many cabinet jobs, I couldn't possibly check out. Were you Chancellor ever?
I was not Chancellor, no.
Oh, honestly, what a fail you were.
I know.
Could you give Rachel Reeves, or Rachel from Accounts, or Richard III, as I call her because of her hairstyle, can you give her one piece of advice for tomorrow?
Well, first of all, if you carry on taxing people's jobs, right, and tell the people who create the wealth in this country that they should leave, then don't be surprised if the economy doesn't grow and the debt keeps rising. It's as simple as that. This government literally tells people, if you are successful, if you create wealth, if you create jobs, we don't want you in Britain. And people are leaving, and it's damaging everybody.
I have to say, despite the fact that you're enjoying your life with your family, I've got a request, because I've loved having you on. Will you come back on, because you're brilliant? Is that OK?
That's very kind of you. Of course, anytime.
Excellent. Grant Shapps, former Defence Secretary. Well, by his own words, he had about 5 cabinet jobs. Fascinating interview there, talking about reform, talking about the present government, talking about defence, having been Defence Secretary, talking about Rachel Reeves. That'll be fun tomorrow, the spring statement.